Last week ending off with uh, intention and motivation. And then we're just going to throw motive in there because motive is something where, like, you'll hear it when someone's doing an investigation, cops, and they're like, all right, what was the killer's motive? And so now your motive to me is something more underneath the consciousness. It's in the subconsciousness, what our motive is. So we'll talk about all of that. And we're talking about it just like with all the other conversations to find out, if I don't know how to observe myself, if I don't know how to, through observing myself, know myself, then I'm always going to just do meaningless actions that are from other people's motivations, intents, and intentions and motives. You're susceptible to that because you're going through life. We know that the brain's conditioned. We know that the brain is programmed. And so if you don't know how to look at that and then move from that, then you're just, again, susceptible to other people's consciousness. You're susceptible to being manipulated. And so who's not going to want to have this awareness? And a good analogy is, all right, well, because then you can say, well, your awareness is a motive, or your awareness is, well, if, yeah, why don't I want that? Because if I'm in a burning building and I'm not aware, then you get burned up. So I want to be aware that the building's on fire, and I want to move from that. I want to get out of danger. I want to be aware of how I'm manipulated in life, and I want to be able to think for myself. And at the very end of that, be a light to myself, be this independence to myself, and really question what I want. And if I want something, then I obtain it, instead of, you see it all the time. I say I want something, whether it's a better world, or I want to see my kids. I want what's good for my kids. I want to keep them safe. And then your actions end up turning into a circus. They end up just, that without the awareness, then you're not getting what you want. If everybody got what they want, then the world would definitely be a different place. So what do we observe right now with, I guess not even looking right now at motivation or intentions or motives, because we're going to get into all that by just observing the world right now as it is. And, when I'm just sitting there and I'm looking at people, there's no right or wrong to say, all right, what somebody's doing in the moment, but we see people are just constantly distracted and constantly moving away from what they say they want. Here's what I want, here's my intention, and I'm getting distracted by technology, by my Facebook apps. I'm getting distracted by my sensations in my body and going to Starbucks or going to the store constantly, or to the fast food restaurant. Even within money, I'm going and studying. All right. So I say I want to make the world better, so I go to school, and I get distracted by my studies, but then I'm trying to study and do that, and I get distracted by this over here, and my grades aren't as good as they could be, or I'm not the person that I actually am saying that I want to be, because then, oh, well, I got to live life, I got to enjoy things, I got to, chase a pleasure now, but then what do you want? What do you want? And so what, is it actually worth it to go and get on the app, get distorted? And I'm just asking the question. But if you're not looking at being aware of that movement of, all right, I'm going to go to Starbucks. What are you going to Starbucks? Do you see what it's doing? Or I want to get on a dating app. Right? Are you looking at it? Are you seeing what's happening here? How much of your life has meaning towards that, and what happens towards that? And with everything, with money, just where are you putting the value on yourself? What are you saying you want, and how are you moving through life? So this awareness really matters. But to just say awareness isn't enough, so we need to go deeper into it. And so let's just start then, all right, with what I want. Here's what I want. And now when we say what we want, we start to move. And when we start to move, we start to look towards somebody else. I want to look, here's what the celebrity says about it. Here's what the Bible says about it. It's just facts. We're not saying anything right or wrong here. We're just looking at what happens. I want something, and then I start to move. And as I start to move, I start to go to certain places, or I start to do certain things to obtain that. now what gets me distracted and what starts to slow down the progress, then I start saying, all right, I need to find motivation. And so we arrive at motivation first. So what now I look for reasons to keep me going. Uh, but what is that actually doing? And then if I don't have the motivation, then how do I want to say, I'm not going towards what I want as strong as I should be. And then things slow down, and now my whole fuel is motivation instead of, so then what you really want, you got to question, then why is it so hard to obtain that, and why do I need motivation towards it? And so we start getting into conditioning. And so it's important now, all right, I want to be aware of myself, aware of who I am. My brain is conditioned, and everything else comes from conditioning. My politics, my religion, the authority I look to, the money that I'm seeking, whatever it is, it's all conditioned. All these infrastructures we put into place, my culture, being an American, being Chinese or Russian, a culture, capitalistic, if you're, what's the other, Russian? Communistic, if you, Marxism,
socialistic, yeah.
Socialistic,
yeah.
and then they all start going into your conditioning, and you put yourself towards one of these groups. And then the conditioning just creates more conditioning. So what we can observe is that we started off conditioned. The brain is just, if you observe the brain, it's going to be conditioned through things, especially if you're not aware of it. So we can see that was the beginning. The beginning started the conditioning. Through the conditioning, we came up with stories, we came up with infrastructures, we came up with things that fueled the things that we want to get away from. So I'm greedy, so I'm going to create a capitalistic society so that'll fuel my greed. But in essence, I'm hiding it and trapping people and showing them, well, if you want to get the same thing I got, you go through the capitalistic thing. Or I'm a leader that believes in sharing everything, so I create this communistic society. But in that communistic society, they're still feeding greed because I'm the president, and why am I any different than anybody else? It's supposed to be communist or socialist. The leader is always living a better life than everybody else. So your conditioning is creating more conditioning, which is just fueling somebody else's motivations, or it's fueling somebody else's desires, and then it creates more conditioning, and we're just stuck in conditioning, and we're not solving any problems, and we're not moving anywhere. There's nothing happening psychologically. It's just a modified past. Me wanting to travel is on the horse.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
Oh no.
Okay, anyway.
And all right, so we're at pretty much conditioning. So the conditioning is just keeping me in conditioning. And so when I'm not taking a step back and being self-aware, then I'm just stuck in that conditioning. And so no matter if we have an intent, or if I have, well, then the intent will come next. All right, so I produce an action. That's where I was at. All right. So, I want to first explain, all right, the whole part of modifying the past, with whatever it is, and how we haven't changed psychologically. So, I want to have transportation. I want to travel somewhere. So we create the horse, and then we create the car, and then we create the airplane, and then we create a spaceship. But how meaningful is that really? And you can say, well, whatever you want to say, and it's just a question of how meaningful is that. But that's what we're talking about. We're just modifying the past. There's nothing different of the traveling. It's just modified, and we think it's getting better, but then we got to ask, is it getting better, and what that even means? But those are questions. Because psychologically, what is it actually doing to us, where you go to the supermarket and you have so many choices there? And what are those choices actually doing? You feel like you got freedom, but you don't have freedom. Now you're kind of stuck in, I don't know what to eat, I don't know what to pick, I don't know what to choose from. All right, I'm going to choose this, this, and this. And so through all of our choices, we can start seeing actually, however you handle that. If you could be self-aware of it, then you limit your choices. You only have a certain amount of choices because you know what it does to your psychology. So I kind of want to stay on that, where if you look back on history, there was only a certain amount of things that I could eat and choose from. There's only a certain amount of people I could socialize with. But now with more choices, and we feel like the more freedom, you got to question that. Are you really free psychologically? Because now you feel like, all right, I got to connect with so-and-so on the other side of the earth. I got to experience this food. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to get a better car, a faster car. I need it now with space travel, I need to get on a spaceship. I need to go see space. And you're becoming, in a way, less fulfilled from all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just looking at everything, even with medicine, and looking at, all right, with all the medicine we have, with all the pills we have, with all the knowledge of psychology we have, why is there more sickness? There's more people developing cancer. There's more psychological issues with people, depression, anxiety, all that stuff. So you got to question that and ask what's really happening here. So let's continue with our movement with motivation. I don't have the motivation, so then I question what I really want. And through questioning what I really want, I got to see that even questioning what I want, it's attached to that conditioning. And when it's attached to the conditioning, then am I really thinking for myself if I'm not being aware of that conditioning? So we start there. All right, so I want to get to know myself. Why do I want to know myself? And when I say that, we just got to stick with that. We don't want to start going off with the thought into tangents. Like, what? All right, let's stick with that. What does that mean to look at myself? Well, to look at your thoughts, to look at where those thoughts come from, to look at, I say this is what I want. Where does that even come from, me saying this is what I want? Your motivations, where does that come from? Why do you have certain motivations and somebody else has different motivations? We look at all that. Where does it come from? I look at my past. And to keep it simply, all right, when I look at what I want, when I look at what I'm trying to do in life, it's all coming from your past. And when it comes from your past, it's coming from the conditioning. So it's coming from everybody else's thoughts. So you're susceptible to all that. You're manipulated by all that. You think you're a good person, but the actions you're taking, you're being manipulated by somebody hired to feed into their whole greed or into their whole plan, and you don't even see it because you don't stop and question and look at yourself. And that's what it means. Look at yourself, look at your actions, look at all the energy you're wasting with all the effort you're producing to try to obtain something. And so even though you say, all right, my intention is this, as I move, I have an action. That action, I fail. I see, okay, I messed up. I say, all right, I need to learn. Let me learn from my mistakes. And then you mess up again. Well, my intention was good. I'm sorry for that. But nobody should be manipulated and feel sorry for you, because you need to take responsibility for yourself. And with all the actions you do, nothing is nobody else's fault. It's to blame your parents, to blame my culture, to blame. You can see it. Now that you see it, take responsibility for every action you make. And you shouldn't even have to learn the first time if you just know how to observe yourself. But you learn the mistake once, then do something and move and see, look at, why did I make that mistake? What am I doing with my life? Why am I doing, saying that I want this and I'm doing something else? Sit there and just sit there for a while and have patience to see it, and not move away from it and try to look at somebody else's life to explain something. Well, so-and-so's doing it and they're making it look all pretty on the other side. And I sit there and look at it, because then then you stay in that loop. And we're going to look at this. So I'm staying in a loop of, I'm looking for motivation to learn so I can produce something that I want. And then in trying to produce something that I want, I fall short, I mess up. Oh, but my intentions are good. My intentions are to lose weight. My intentions are whatever it is. And then you find the motivation again. You get motivated. You try again. You get manipulated by your feelings, by emotions, by other people. You go search for other people. You listen to the priests. You listen to the gurus. You listen to your friends. And then you fall short again, and you just wonder, what's happening? What's going on here? Well, my intention. Here's my intention is good. My intention is pure, but it's not pure. It's muddled. It's distorted by the conditioning, and so you're staying in that loop. Mm-hmm. If we go deeper into that, all right. So I'm producing actions. Why are you doing those actions? Well, now I need to look at my motive. Your motive is going to be a little deeper. Your motive is, you got to look at it. What is your motive? And with any kind of motive, if you can't see it, then you're conditioned. You're going to stay in conditioning. So my motive. All right. Well, now you got to ask yourself, what is your motive? For examples, your motive is going to be a lot simpler, because your intention. You have your intention, but then your motive. You have to look at your motive. And if you look at motives, everybody's motive is going to be something. Well, I'm seeking happiness. I'm seeking to help. My motive is to, whatever it is, but whatever you say it is, your motive's always going to come down to what makes you feel good, what makes you have satisfaction. But then there's other people's motives. We can see that they have a motive to somehow get closer to God, and so they put themselves through suffering. But with the motive, you can just see you're staying in conditioning, whether it's another culture that has the conditioning of I need to suffer to be closer to God, or in America, what I observe is my conditioning to do good, but then I get so distracted by all the choices and the freedoms that I think I have, by the politics, by the news. And so my motive is actually, for Americans, it seems a little bit more into pleasures. Your motive is always going to be selfish. But you need to question that for yourself and be able to see your motive. And if you can see your motive, then you ask, all right, well, what do? I see that my motive to see and get information. I went to an event and I'm trying to better myself. And so I'm listening to somebody. And so my whole motive to better myself, I'm coming over here to listen to somebody. And then just look at the movement that takes you to when, all right, if my motive is to better myself, let me look at myself and just let me look at what everything's doing. And then that way you can at least see that the conditioning is there, and you can see that there's nothing new about you. There's nothing that you're going to do any different than anybody else ever has, or do it any better than anybody else ever has. And so what do you do? Then you ask, what do you do? Well, that's not really going to be the question or the answer, because then you get into, well, what do I need to do? And then asking what you need to do, you're going to go back and look for instructions again. I'm going to go look to, all right, what do I do? It's not going to be, I don't know, you're going to have to figure that out, but it's going to be to see the motive. When I see the motive, I understand that whatever motive it is, it's attached to the conditioning. And if I'm attached to the conditioning, I'm just going to produce the same thing that's been produced, that's had 2,000 years to evolve, and that's been tried out, and nothing's happened. So we at least want to be able to see the difference between my psychology and my psyche, which none of that has a place, and we can go into that, and then putting stuff in their place. Where, all right, well, authority. We need authority for math. We need authority for certain things. Fear. We need fear for certain things, but fear doesn't have anything to do with my psyche. And then it gets a little deeper into love and things like that. Because if I have a motive, can love exist within that motive? And we can get into that. So looking at those three things, we've kind of broken. Motivation is my reasoning for things. I'm looking for reasons. Then I have my intention. All right, well, my reasons aren't enough. They keep me failing from reaching my goal, that I'm trying to become something. And then I say, well, my intention is good, and I expect people to feel sorry for me, when people need to be like, well, you need to take responsibility for yourself. There's nothing mean about it. It's just saying, no, everything is your fault. That's the number one rule. Everything is on you, to stop blaming certain authorities, people, cultures, especially in America where you have all this freedom. And then finally, your motive. All right, what is my motive actually? What do I look at? Well, everything I am doing is selfish. Well, if you're looking for love, or you have an idea of love, does love exist in selfishness? Or my motive is to make myself suffer. Well, you're making yourself suffer, and what is it actually doing? See it to the end. See what the motive's doing. See that it's all stuck in this conditioning, and that we're just people modifying the past and just doing nothing different, and that's fact. And so then you ask, what am I supposed to do from there? Well, it's not. Now you're going somewhere else. It's just to look at those things, and then from there you just move. And when I say move, from there you psychologically you move away from that. You get out of that. And so all right, so now let's explain just a little bit more. So where to start. And it's not to tell you how to do this, but look at the two things you got. I got the outside world, I have the inside world. So I'm going to observe first everything in my outside world and what's going on. Just like we just did, I see that people they either suffer or they put themselves through pleasure, or they seek pleasure, or they seek pain, or you look at what the authorities doing, what the politics are doing. You look at the media, what the media is doing. You just sit, you observe what people are doing. People say they want one thing, they get distracted, they're moving around just like a bunch of ants. And so observe your outside world. You're seeing that we're taken from nature. You see that there's an economic split. You see that there's war, the traditional war, which is just ridiculous, and justifying praying to your God to help your war out, to kill people. And so observe that. And now you start moving inwardly and being like, okay, so how is that playing into my psychology? How am I not putting that in its place? Or how do I see people not putting things in their place, and they're taking all that conflict, all that separateness, all that individuality, and they're putting it into the psyche when there's something totally different within the psyche and within consciousness that you can understand, not by having to listen to anybody, but just observe the outside world and then start to move inwardly. Because if you just start inward, then that's all conditioning. You're susceptible to your conditioning. If I'm just starting inwardly and what I think is the light and what, or whatever it is, even if you try to move without observing the outside world, where are you going to move to? You're still having certain conditioning or certain evolution of the brain that's going to happen, sexuality or whatever it may be. So if I can see outside, see what sexuality does, see if you're going to listen to statistics, which I would still question, that STDs are on the rise, or that you see even with sex, if I sexuality, if I see all the children that are being born to neurotic parents, to parents that are trying to be around the kids less. I observe, a parent saying, "Yeah, I'm trying to keep my kid distracted. I don't want him around me. Whatever keeps them quiet, this and that." And it's like, is that love, that you're trying to separate yourself from your kid, but because you buy him something, or because you give him a roof over your head, that's love? Observe all that, and then start to move inwardly, and then just ask, where does that come from? Why is that happening? Why do people act like that? And not to just accept it's in my nature, and that we're just born to live this way. Like, this is the only way to live that we've created: cultures, societies, separateness, individuality, tribalisms, the need to be successful, the need to earn money, which is just somebody else's interpretation, somebody else's structure that they've put in place. And now you're conditioned to think that that's the right way and to live that way. And you can see that. So you move inwardly and you try to find out what real freedom is. I think two things we want: love and freedom. And is freedom, you're not free at all when you're moving to somebody else's drum beat, per se. And then love, and then is love selfish? Is love impatience? Is love war? And so what's going on here? Yeah.
Woo, that's a lot. You know what I think? I think that our brains, as we develop, are built to be programmed or built to be conditioned. I think from the very beginning, we are placed into conditioning. Parents start conditioning that infant right away, depending on the past, like you said, and how they were conditioned. And then depending on, I see the conditioning as the shoulds. You're in a culture, and I should, grow up, get a good job, get married, have a family. That's kind of the American culture in general. I should do these things. I am conditioned by my culture to believe that these are the right and good things to do. A lot of times people just follow that path. I mean, it's not an easy path, but it's a clear path. And so the conditioning of our cultures give us this clear path to follow. This is what you should do. Now, within that conditioning come our motives. And I think motives are the why behind our actions. Why do we do what we do? And so those are unfortunately embedded in, like you just talked about this, they're embedded in the conditioning. You can't get away from it. We can't get away from it. So you're correct in the fact that, in order to be truly free as we can be, because I do not think we can divorce ourselves from the conditioning completely, we need to stop and ask ourselves about our motives and how our culture, our conditioning is influencing those. Because if we don't want to be influenced by that and kind of jump the train and jump outside of things, we need to stop, like you just mentioned, and really think about it and consider it and say, why am I motivated? And I think we're more simple than we make ourselves out to be. I think most people are motivated by pleasure. We're going to do things that bring us pleasure. We're motivated need. We need to eat, we need to sleep, we need shelter, we need to feel safe. And I would even go one further, and further up the line, we're motivated by self-efficacy, or what we're able to accomplish in this world. I want to make my mark in this world.
We don't stop and ask why. I mean, even
No.
if it's pleasure, you think, all right, yeah, I want to lose weight, and then I look for motivation. I feel inspired, but then we know that that's meaningless and doesn't do anything, because then it comes and it goes. And then you find pleasure in food, but then you don't even see how the pleasure is creating the pain, creating the pleasure and the pain. So that's the conditioning we're stuck in, that we want to, I would think,
Yes.
most of all, get rid of. Where, all right, I'm going to look for love, and then looking for love, I find a spouse, and then I'm going through, again, pain and pleasure, suffering and conflict, feeling angry about my spouse, and then feeling good about my spouse, up and down.
Hmm.
We're constantly seeking out the pleasure to cover up the pain, and that's all it's doing, is covering it up, instead of going into the pain, or going into the effort, going into the sadness, going into and asking why, and then making the decision, no matter what, how hard you think it is, to realize that this is the best decision, and I need to do it, whether it's getting away from my spouse, or getting away from realizing, okay, I have these kids for whatever reason. Look at the hard questions, or I got to get away from this friend because they're not seeing it, and so I'm not attached to that. I'm not going to be lonely, because then we get into the whole thing where we start imagining things. Well, if that happens, if I have no motive, I'm going to be this. Your imagination starts, or with before, well, I think life will be pretty dull if I didn't have joy. And it's like, well, I mean, what are you even talking about now? And you're starting to get into imagining. You haven't even tried to drop certain things. And
No, I agree. I agree. Well, I like the example because it's a pretty clear example of losing weight. And our society tells us that, you look at all the celebrities and athletes, the people that we really kind of worship, and they are beautiful and strong and thin. So we're conditioned that this is the ideal. This is how you should be.
and it's
This is our
amazing that we don't
conditioning.
question beauty, because then we got stuff there. Because then we do have that mentality, and it's like, but then you go to church, or you actually talk to somebody, and they know what beauty really is. I mean, you question on beauty, and we know that beauty is relative, and then so then I question what beauty is. If I feel so bad about myself, okay, boom, I saw it. Well, I think that they're beautiful and I'm not. Well, let me go into what beauty actually is, and to look at all the cultures having different beauty. You can see some cultures like fat women, and this now. All right, that doesn't justify fat, but we're gonna see that beauty is right at this point now. It's confused, it's distorted, so it's not beauty at all. Beauty at this point now is just a word, and this word has all this history to it that we've put. So you put the past to it, and now we got to end the past with beauty. I need to look at beauty for everything it is. Well, what is beauty? Well, I can see beauty is the grass. Beauty is a certain figure I see on TV. Beauty is all these things. It's the water. And then I keep investigating until I find out, for me, it's looking at, well, beauty then doesn't have the past to it. So if I put no thought to beauty, everything is beautiful. It doesn't matter if you're fat, this or that, the grass, the water, everything is always going to have a beauty to it, because there's no thought to it. There's no bias to it. There's no, all those things. There's no past to it. You're just seeing it for what it is. And then you ask, is that beauty? And I mean, there's nothing that's going to surpass beauty as far as, nature, and just looking at everything from the basis of the creation, and that's beautiful. The fact that everything has came from, without the knowledge, from nothing. The world, through the evolution of, and then just life, and then life to be able to express itself through us, which is not an abstraction or some kind of philosophy. That's fact. There's life in the plants, there's life in us. There's a little bit more expressiveness in us, a little bit more, there's the eyes, the ears, but you still have to even question that and think that there's no difference, because then you start creating this line, this individuality, to say that my experience is different from that experience of the plant or of the dog or of their cat. And now, so I have an authority over that to do something. And for one, you don't know that. They have an experience just like us. The plants are still alive. It's life, no matter what. And yeah, and then question that whole thing of when you think you have superiority over something, or people like to throw that Bible verse around a dominion. I have dominion over all of this stuff because I'm a human being. And then you're not questioning the word dominion. You're not questioning. Question.
Well, and I think, I think you're kind of getting the cart before the horse, because you go back to your person that's looking at all the celebrities and all the athletes and going, that's the way I should be. So they have an intent. They intend to lose weight and get in shape. And they find that they can't do it. And they are like, you know what? I just can't go to the gym. I just don't go to the gym. I'd rather go to my refrigerator and eat pizza. So the intent is there, but they need to look at their motive. And it's like, what is motivating me to go to my refrigerator and eat my pizza rather than not motivating me to go to the gym? So the pizza it fulfills a need. I'm hungry, I need to eat, and it's delicious.
And then you got to question that. Now you're going, we're good.
Yeah, and
Good,
so
good. Define
now,
that.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What is
So
hunger? Am I hungry?
Yeah, now if that person starts to say, gosh, why can't I lose weight? Why can't I lose weight? Why am I not motivated to eat better and go to the gym? And that's where kind of you're already there, where you're saying you need to start questioning and examining your motives, because whatever you're motivated by, that's what you're going to do.
And that's where people stay on the surface. When we have these conversations, they can't go underneath into the water of the subconscious or into their deep motives.
Whys.
So then they're stuck on that circle. Like we're having a conversation now, and they just can't get out of the whole superficialness of it all. Well, I can't find the motivation, and then you don't start looking at, well, then my brain, like why can't I get out of this certain circle of feeling a little anxiety, and then so I need to go eat the pizza to curb my enthusiasm. Well, we can see that your body is starting to crave certain things that you put into it. I mean, if you just look at your past, well, yeah, I didn't like this before. Now I like that because I was exposed to it. So then start exposing. What does it mean? Then start exposing your body to something different, and to just, I don't want to say go through a training, but to just see it instantly. And then I can just sit with it. Even though I feel a hunger pain, I drop it when I see where the hunger pain comes from, and that there's no training or learning to it. There's just, all right, for example, I'm feeling anxious, I'm bored right now, it's a long journey ahead of me, I'm gonna go grab the pizza. Sit there with it and be like, why am I grabbing the pizza? It's a habit. I see the habit, so now I can do something about it. Okay, there's the habit's the culprit. Where does the habit come from? Well, you have something in your body. We can just take the knowledge out of it, and something within your body can recognize a habit. It can recognize repetition. You can be stuck in repetition. All right, so let me stop that repetition, and now that I see that, I can have faith, or I can just drop the pizza, because I want to produce the repetition of not being controlled. I want to produce the repetition of not having anxiety for this, because I already have come to that conclusion by observing what's going on and deducing it, going backwards from it, of how to stop it. So now I just need to stop it.
Well, and you speak to something else that our culture here conditions us into, and that is immediate results. Just immediate results. I mean, we have a very difficult time, most people do, with those long-term goals. I mean, I want to not be able to, I want to stop craving the pizza immediately. I don't want to put in the hard work to break this bad habit to reap the rewards, 6 months from now. And so I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, is it's like, what the heck? I'm just going to throw up my hands. I'm going to stay overweight. I'm going to stay unhealthy because I don't want to put in, and this is in general. I know there are special circumstances in other.
But you look at hard, all right, you're calling this hard at this moment. This is hard. Well, all right, now stay with that. All right, what is so hard about it? What it's on the other opposite end? Is it not hard to go through life and to start isolating yourself because you feel a certain way about yourself? Because when you're in a public setting, you're self-conscious, you have thoughts about yourself because you're overweight, or because deep down in your brain, you're not sticking to certain things, you're not looking a certain way, and so you're saying something is hard when your whole life for the past 20 years life's been hard because you have a certain consciousness about yourself, because you have a certain thought about yourself, and now you see what this other result can produce, and you're saying this is hard, and you want to throw your hands up, and then now you're going, what's happening, you're going back, I'm going to go back into habit. What is making this hard is because I'm trying to break a habit. But if I look at the habit that has produced what it's produced so far, I see that that's hard. I see that I don't like that. I see that that produces conflict. It produces suffering. It produces this. So let me try something different instead of imagining what it's going to produce. Oh, it's going to be hard. I'm going to be fat forever. I'm going to have to do this forever. I'm going to have to struggle my whole life to try to eat healthy. And now you're imagining things. You're producing you're projecting the future that hasn't even happened yet.
Yes.
And people already have these tools in them again. So we're trying to keep things simple, not have knowledge to it, and we can just deduce it from it. As soon as you say something's hard, what about it's hard? Well, it's hard to stay on track and to do things. Okay, and if you don't stay on track, what happens? And so, I mean, this is already in the psychology thing. This is already something that you have within you, and you don't deduce things, though. But it's the conditioning of the brain that keeps you of somehow, whether it's our culture, and I think people in power really have this knowledge. They know how to somehow produce the structure that they've produced that keeps us from thinking that way. Or you have a
Yes.
friend that comes and is a negative influence on you and says, man, that friend doesn't want to lose their eating buddy or their drinking buddy or their gambling buddy. So they're going to subconsciously or consciously hold you back from it and tell you, man, girl, just drop it, be happy. But you're not happy.
You have bad, and yeah, you've got your friends that are
Now
bad
you gotta ask, are you
intent.
stupid? Is this stupidity? Is this is not being bad? But it's like you gotta start being hard on yourself and taking responsibility and being like, I'm responsible for everything I do. And you're whatever the word respect is or this and that, it's gonna rub off on your friends, and the ones that aren't your friends or the people that don't want to be part of that discussion or part of that life are gonna fall off. And then you ask, do I really need him at all? What am I actually missing about him? And then when those thoughts do arrive, well, I miss my friend. What do you miss about it? Well, I miss eating with them. Do you miss I miss laughing with them? Okay, and then you question that, and then is that really worth whatever that they were doing to you, or can you still have a relationship with that person, and y'all can just not produce conflict? You can eat what you want, and I can do what I want. I do it all the time, being a vegan and just being around meat eaters. I don't judge them. I don't say ew. I don't do that's stupid too. Why do people? I don't know why people do that. You're not going to change nobody doing that.
No, and I think you make a really good point here, in that, okay, you've got your person who's saying, gosh, it's going to be really hard to break this habit. It's going to be really hard to stop eating bad food and start eating right. And then they project all this stuff into the future. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be so hungry all the time. I'm going to lose all my friends. All these negative things, all these terrible things are going to happen. And it's like, you don't know that. Those are just thoughts about a future that hasn't happened yet. You have no idea. Who knows? You could wake up tomorrow and eat broccoli and find it's more delicious than pizza for you. I mean, you don't know. And I think people, we kind of psych ourselves out into believing that, yes, I need to be on this journey because I should be more healthy, or I should be in a better relationship, or I should be, whatever it is, a better parent, whatever it is. But then they psych themselves out and say, but I know that this will happen, that will happen, that will happen. It's like, no, you don't. That's where I think what you've been talking about all along, of just be. Wake up each day, take each day as it comes, take each meal as it comes, take each fight with your kid or your spouse or whatever as it comes, and deal with it then, because you don't know tomorrow.
And when you
Nobody
deal with it,
knows
you're observing it
tomorrow.
and you're asking why. My kid is crying. I'm starting to feel angry. Why? I love my kid. Why is my kid crying? Well, I conditioned him. I've given him all these toys, or I always talk to him in a weird way. You can observe it. You can see it. And then are you going to change it from there? Once you see it, you see the facts of it. It's like, what do you do about it? And most of us they like to stay stuck in their conditioning, because there is a pleasure from it. There's a pleasure from the pain. There's a certain,
It's security.
I gotta feel pain to feel pleasure. Yeah, and it's like, no, you don't. There's a security there.
Familiarity.
But do you want to know yourself? And if I don't know myself, what kind of actions am I producing? And yes, I want to know myself. Well, then you gotta seek the conditioning. You gotta start freeing yourself from it. You gotta learn You don't even need to learn nothing. You just got to be aware, and what that really means to be aware, and not just aware of the superficial stuff on the top, but go deeper into it. Why am I hungry? Habit. Where do I get the habits from? The past. Where did that come from? My parents used to eat a lot. Keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, and then once you really see the root of it, you pull the root out, and then it really is gone. So then I started questioning. Well, then all right, motivation, intent, and motive. How do you get rid of that? Because all of that is still words that were put in from the consciousness that are still there from the consciousness of trying to change something or trying to become something. And so even when I see that, well, motivation, what does motivation do? Well, it keeps you always trying to look for something. And then when you're looking for something, you're looking for somebody else for something. And then you're looking at their interpretation of what success is or their interpretation of what it means to feel good. Then I'm looking at intention, what my intent. Well, if you look at your intention and what my intention is to do this, well, now you're looking at what it is to do. And then if you don't do it, you're in conflict. My motive, what is the motive? Can I get rid of, it's just a question of, can I get rid of all of that? And then what happens when I do get rid of all of that? Because all that is part of the conditioning. And then how to do that, which we've been kind of talking about, how to get out of your conditioning. And it's not that maybe you can't it's going to take evolution to get rid of it. But can you at least see it, so that way when you produce actions, you see why you're producing the actions and what they're doing, and then you can end them a lot quicker, or at least you have a certain non-selfish way of utilizing some of these actions. Because the answer isn't getting out of it. I mean, I can't just leave society. People have already done that. So what is it that I can do that is totally different from what's ever been done?
That's a good question. And I think that the conditioning in our cultures are so strong. There's also an element of people don't want to be shut out or shamed.
And then they imagine, but you're not.
Yeah, and
Right?
but yeah, well, a lot
Do
of
you
times.
think, or what are you doing to get shut out or shamed? So then let me look at that. Well, everybody's not taking too likely to what's happening to me right now. And all right, well, what are you doing? Are you projecting something to where you think you're better than everybody now, or what's going on here? Because I can say I don't have that problem.
Yeah. But yeah, and I mean, but it's hard, and I mean, especially, you talk about those really brave people, and I think it's really brave of those people to say, enough is enough. I am going against the conditioning of my culture, and we don't like that. Our culture doesn't like that. I was watching this video the other day on YouTube of a couple. They're very much in love, and I mean, they're just so odd to look at. But he's 24 and she's 67, and they're talking about how the backlash from the culture, and saying, oh, you're dating the crypt keeper, oh, you're dating your great granny, oh, you're a gold digger, oh, all of these horrible things. But I see that as, but they're like, hey, you know what, it's hard, but we are going to move forward despite culture, despite conditioning. And I think a lot of people, don't make it that far, because it's too hard. It's like, oh, gee, I don't want to be shamed. I don't want to be hurt or made fun of, or and I think it's a really powerful motivator for our leaders to use as a way to control us.
And that's gonna happen too. The whole conflict. So I think I know who you're talking about, because they put themselves on social media.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're on TikTok all the time.
So then we get down to the part. So usually people that have conflict on, if it's that or if it's me trying to better myself, it's because you're always putting it out there. Like you're always trying to somehow either show somebody something, because now you think you're teaching somebody a lesson, or that there's something special about you. You need it. So the best thing I do is just, I mean, I'm not even gonna say I do it. I'm not doing it to be quiet, but I'm doing it as far as I know what I am. I know what's going on here. I know my psyche. I see it. There's no reason for me, because people we already know don't understand it, for me to go out and project it, or for me to go out and try to teach somebody a lesson, or for me to, if somebody's telling me something, to somehow try to give them a lecture, or to, again, if somebody wants to be a part of my life, they're a part of my life. If they're not, they're not. When I first went through being a vegetarian, even a vegan, you get people's comments, and then you just explain to them what it is. But then I'm not going to that's why I don't do a lot of social media, because what are you gonna do? Go through and talk to all these people and explain to them? I mean, now you're creating an outlet, whether it's social media or it's yourself. When you go into your job or you go into a public place and you start shouting that, saying stuff like, I was watching an episode of Cops. The guy was a little drunk, but he was telling the black guy he's racist. He goes, I didn't do anything. I just told him I'm racist. Or when someone got to go into a building and tell somebody I'm gay, is that going to be a problem? Or I got to go into a building and tell somebody, you're somehow projecting, or put a big sticker on your truck that says you're for guns, and you're creating conflict by putting your business out there, and then you question it. I question, why do people even put their business out there in the first place? Why do I feel like I have to go and show that there's something special about me? And that has been done over and over again before, and it creates conflict. You're not going to do anything special. That couple, great, good for them, but they're not. What do they think they're going to do from that? I mean, and what is their actual motive for doing that? Are they just trying to be social media celebrities?
That's a good question.
No one's questioning that they love themselves, but I mean,
no, that's a good question.
People acting like fools and being ridiculous. Everybody. I want to be in the spotlight. I want to put my beliefs out there. I want to show you that you're doing something wrong, and you don't even. Then you question that. What makes you the authority on thinking somebody's doing something wrong? But it's because your frustrations, your fears, you want to be again in the spotlight. Somehow your motive of selfishness, of I want pleasure out of telling this person how it is, and I don't care if there's conflict in it, because I get pleasure out of just feeling like I'm right or I'm fighting the good fight. And
I think we're
insanity.
It is insanity. Yeah, amen to
we're
that. We're all insane.
Yeah.
We're all crazy. I think it's perceived as a threat, and I mean, I'm not a psychologist by any stretch, but
what do you perceive though? And I mean, that's going to be fact. But when you do see it, like you're going on,
but
even if you're not a psychologist, you've already seen it, or you've.
Oh, we all see it.
Yeah.
We all see it. I when I was a substitute teacher, especially the little kids, like kindergarten, first graders, 5, 6-year-olds, very young. I would be subbing for a teacher, and of course I wouldn't know what the teacher's daily routine is. I would, do things how I thought they should be done. And most of the kids were okay with it, but there were always some that were like, the teacher doesn't do it that way. That's not the way it's done. You're not supposed to do it that way. You're supposed to do it this way. And I think we grow up and that conditioning takes such a strong hold of us,
it becomes a motive.
Yeah, because to correct people. Take a break.
I knew it went up.
Oh, you okay?
Change the battery. Oh well.
Oh, did it stop?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
The battery was full before, but we got that. I'll just put a picture to it.
Okay, well, there you go.
Okay.
Improvise. But I think the conditioning is so strong that we see it as a threat if somebody is doing something different. I think your veganism is a perfect example because it speaks to a very basic social activity, and that's eating.
And is that where the motive's hiding? So now when you question, all right, what's your motive? Well, your motive is you don't want someone doing, or there's something about either your own psyche or something about somebody else. That's your motive. Your motive is control. Your motive is to not have them. So now we're digging into, again, with the beginning, I murder somebody. We don't really know what the motive is at first, but we got to dig a little deeper into their conditioning, their past. What was their motive behind it all?
Yeah, and I think a lot of times our motives, if we see somebody doing something that's that kind of jumps the conditioning, kind of rebels against the conditioning, no matter what it is, whether it's whoever you're married to or dating, or whatever you eat, or I have a very unique hobby, and so
people gotta make a comment on it, and they think they're being funny, and it's like, is that funny though? Is that?
And so I think there are some people that are threatened, genuinely threatened, and they are the ones that really need to look at their motives. And it's like, why is it so important to you why does it bother you so much that Josh is choosing to eat vegetables and eat no meat? That is none of your business.
And they project their imagination. Well, he's not being healthy, or he's not really, or
why?
There's always something, or you're gonna get too skinny. You're getting too skinny. You need to. I've heard that from the family before.
And so, what? And it's like, what is your motive? Why does it bother you so much, and why are you so motivated to talk to him about what he's eating? I mean, really take a look at your motives here. And I think a lot of times it has to do with threat and fear. And
Or
just
them thinking I'm better than, trying to be better than them, or be something subconsciously. And then, but then that's good. You're saying all of that because that's what I observe in people. And then what ends up happening, instead of me trying to get mad, or if somebody says something that tries to do a joke, I see that in people now. The conditioning in them, the motives in them, and what actually comes out of it is compassion. And then the next step would be is that love, but this whole compassion of I don't need to tell you nothing. I don't need to react to what you're saying. I don't need to somehow try to change you. I don't need to do anything in that moment. I see your conditioning as a human. I see your confusion as a human. I see everything in you, and then it almost kind of makes you then look like a child to me psychologically. And if anything, I have this compassion. I have this, oh, and it doesn't even get into feeling sorry for somebody. It gets into, you have no friends. You've already kind of told me that, and I can see you're a loud person. I can see that you don't want friends because of what they've done to you. And so now you're this real independent, loud person. Other people look at you like, well, I see why you don't have no friends. And instead, I look at you like, with the compassion to just not have any thought towards you, any anger towards you, any kind of thought. It's just like, let me talk to you. Somehow, there's not a barrier no more. There's just this, lack of a better word, of this connection. There's a certain thing like that's looking at you like you're my sister, my family, and I have a compassion for you to no matter, even if you've hurt somebody, I see your conditioning. I see that there was always this trap that you were in that you never saw, and I have compassion for you.
It reminds me of a good quote that I just heard yesterday, and it says, "Tell me all the terrible things you've done, and let me love you anyway,"
Yeah.
by Edgar Allan Poe, and I just love that. And it's like I don't think very many people get to that
Let me
point.
love you more, because that's sad. That's sadness. What is
Yeah.
sadness? Well, sadness is when you have a capability of, or people do, a capability of compassion and love, and you don't use it because of your confusion about it. Because of, I mean, then you even ask what that stuff really is, because we know it's just words made up. But we try to get down to the root of what people are trying to describe. And then you can't say there's different kinds, or that it's relative, because then if it's relative, there's different kinds, and it doesn't exist. There's going to be other words for that, other categories for that. Either love exists or it doesn't. There's not different kinds of love either, because then you get into other. Well, then what is it that exists if you're trying to say other love or a compassion? There's different types of compassion. There's just the word. There's the word, and there's the past to it. There's what it is. There's not. You say there's different kinds of it. We got to actually look at them. What are we? There's going to be a different description for it. There's not 2 + 2 = 4. There's not different ways that to. There's different ways to get to 4, but it's always going to be the same thing.
Yeah. Well, because people are the same. I mean, in general, at the very heart of us, at the very core of us, we're all the
But our
same.
individuality makes it like, well, I'm going to justify why I treat you like shit and I treat you better. I'm going to justify why
That's
I don't
conditioning.
respect this kind of life and I respect this life. And you don't even respect, the life of a human. But then, you just get into the justifying. And then we create the structures, we create the Democrats, Republicans, we create the religions, we create the books, or we interpret the books in a way that now justifies why I'm broken, or why I'm angry in this moment, why I killed, why there's war.
And you look at that and say, well, where did you get your reasoning from? Did
Mm-hmm.
you just get it on your own, or did you get it from somebody else that wrote a book, or, told you this? And
Mm-hmm.
so I really, there, it's more conditioning.
What makes that person so special?
Exactly.
Nobody has a better connection with God, or nobody is God, or nobody's
Mhm.
anything better than you. Nobody has any capability different than you. Like real intelligence, we can get into that. But nobody's smarter than you. Nobody's anything than you. You just have a certain distortion about yourself, and then that keeps you in this bondage, and then you end up living that out in your future. Your future's now, and whatever you think now is going to be your future. So,
Mhm.
how are you looking at things?
I just don't think people quite get to that point. And so one question I have is do you think there's a pure motive? Do you think that there is somewhere out there a pure motive that somebody can have apart from
Well, if I see
conditioning?
that motive comes from conditioning, then I don't want any motives. And so the only motive, if you had to then label motive, we talked about awareness, but
Hmm.
that is something we want. I do want awareness, because if I have no awareness, then I'm dead. The analogy of the, I want to be aware of the cars coming. I'm gonna get hit by a car. I want to be aware that the building's on fire. I'm gonna get burned up. So there's a certain part of common that I don't want to call it common sense, but there's a certain I have to eat.
No,
If
it's
I don't
common
eat
sense.
anything, I'm gonna die. You have to eat, but then again, we talked about all these choices we have that then doesn't produce freedom. We think the more we have, the more freedom we have, the more I'm able to do stuff, and not. It's kind of the opposite. The more choices, the more you start putting on yourself, the less freedom you have. Your brain demands order. It only can function when you have order. That's why you need a clean house. People with dirty houses or a bunch of stuff are very confused. They're only focused on one thing. They'll go and they're studying. They might be the best at math. Their social skills probably suck. Something about them is not. Their perception is off. And so I look at motives and what it does. I want to see that motives are attached to conditioning. I mean, anything you can think is going to be attached to conditioning at this point. So I want to just be able to see it and observe it. And even though I might do things that are in that conditioning, I can see what it is. So that way I'm not controlled by it, or I'm not attached to it, or my emotions and my feelings aren't attached to it. I'm totally separate from that. I see the conditioning, but I separate myself from the conditioning, and I don't run away from it, and I don't demoralize it, and I don't. But yeah, even morals, everything has came from our conditioning. Our idea of morals, our idea of acting, everything you think of is the conditioning from the past. All you can do is question it and look at how it's working, what it's doing, and if even you say you're moral, and are you even moral at all to have all these morals? Why doesn't the action get produced? And I go into it and I look at it. Well, okay, then why am I not being moral? What is moral to me? Stick to the fact of what you say is moral, and then from there just start deducing and asking, all right, well, where am I being moral? And then go down the line. And if you're not, you start seeing it, and then it starts changing you, because if you really believe what morality is, there's no way you can run away from it once you see it. It somehow the brain sees it. When the brain sees it, it mutates it. It changes it. It has to change it.
So self-reflection, and looking deeper.
And then people always want to ask how. They go get a book, they do it, and there is no how to it. There's just doing it. Go into it. Boom, there's that. Question it again. Boom, there's that. Until you find the right question, and then you actually trap, which I always say maybe is a better understanding of the abstractions. Everything is an abstraction of what we know as fact. So for me, when I look at movies and I see the whole demon thing, you're looking for the demon to call his name out so the demon can actually leave you from being possessed by whatever that is. So I'm going into it, the exorcism, I'm getting riled up, I'm getting mad, I'm finding different things out about myself, I'm getting deeper into it, I see my past, I'm getting mad because I'm blaming my mom and dad, I'm blaming the culture, and then I keep deducing it until I actually see what it is, that root cause of, and it's down there, it's always the conditioning. We can get there from looking at fear and looking at different things, but it's always stuck in the conditioning, it's stuck in the past, and then when I see that, then the question is, can I separate myself from it? And the easiest way to separate yourself from it is you can do it all at once, but usually with the way we've been, it's one thing at a time. All right, why am I doing this action? And then go into it until you can finally see how it's connected to conditioning. All right, I want my freedom. I want to know how to love. So that's not what that is. So then I get rid of that, or I at least see it, so that when I do it, there's no emotional connection to it. There's no feeling to it. There's no making somebody else do it.
So that's the how. I mean, that's really the how, is self-reflection until you find the demon.
But don't go looking for it. But yes,
yeah, you find the demon. You call out the demon's name. You have power over the demon, whatever it is. And then it leaves. And so then what? Are you left with an opportunity to have a more, not a completely pure motive, but a more pure motive, such as a more selfless motive? Something
but
that
is a motive at a certain point, and then I just have no motive, so I'm just there, I'm just being. I mean, we can, but because if we're looking at motive as far as a motive of where my action comes from, then I mean you can at least see it. If there's no getting rid of the motive, at least, because in the culture, to get rid of the motive might require some things, but I at least see the motive, which then in essence I control it. I'm not bounded by it. I have freedom from it. I'm not chained to it because I actually see it. I don't have the chain. I just see the motive to where if I need to come back to it, I can. I mean, not to come back to it, but when I'm doing something that's motivated, for instance, why I'm doing the podcast or why I try to understand people better so I can talk to them. You can say there's some motive there, but I see the motive. I know the motive, and I can unattach from the motive when I need to. I can, if in a spur of the moment somebody wants to do things, my mom's going to go to the store. I mean, I can either stay isolated here and do all this studying, or I can go with you. And I can just say from past experience, I would get frustrated by that, or I would not go spend time with people and I'd be isolated working on something that I think is going to change the world and it's not. So now that I can see that, I'm able to just unattach myself from it. I might be on the, so to speak, I'm not on a chain, but I might be on the chain, but I know how to take myself off of it. I know how to go back and forth. And then ultimately, to me, where my thoughts are going with it is it's death. You're ultimately being free from the what ifs. I might get hurt. I might die. I might do that, because more than likely you're not. And so just do it and just put yourself out there. I might be embarrassed. I mean, we could look at death as an analogy for, yeah, I might be embarrassed. I might look stupid. I might do this, and you're probably not. And if you are, that's not on you. That's on other people's perceptions. But when you see the motive, I mean, when you see the conditioning of other people, you're free from it. Yeah, they're gonna think I feel stupid, but that's because they're mindless animals, or they're not aware, or they're gonna fall in, and I'm gonna joke around with them then, and then I'm just gonna fall into that. I'm gonna attach my chain to that in that moment and joke around and be stupid. But I know, I see it. I know what it is, so I'm not attached to it, and I know it's staying within those friends, so it's not gonna be some big publicity thing. So I'm not going out commenting on social media and stirring things up. These people know me. I know these people, and if I need to, I'll speak up and be like, "Yeah, it was just a joke," or somehow you're setting the tone of what it is in that moment. So
it takes a lot of strength, and it takes a lot of
when you say strength, does that mean
introspection?
It just takes seeing it. It just takes knowing. Once I see the conditioning, then knowing that they're conditioned, because then there is no strength. Like I don't feel like I have to practice anything or work at putting myself somewhere I don't want to be, because then I even question, well, then why am I even doing certain things? Oh, I have a fear. Like I want to be a comedian, and I have a fear of going up there. Well, then I mean, why do you want to be a comedian? Why do you want to go up there? Maybe you're forcing yourself to not do something. Well, I want to test myself. Well, then look at the conditioning and look at, yeah, people are going to judge you, and maybe you're not funny. You got to question. But then it all goes away, and then you can go up there, and if you want to work on that craft of being funny, you can, because you know that it's all, when you're putting yourself in a process, you're going to put yourself in conflict. I mean, you're going to do that stuff, and then you ask, why are you doing it? And I don't know what your answer is, but if you think you're going to try to make people's lives better by making them happy, that's not going to happen. Maybe that little moment they have happiness, but why do you not want to solve and put your efforts into something more? I mean, is your family suffering because now you're trying to be a comedian? Are you suffering because you're not getting enough sleep? Where's the balance? And what are you doing it for? I mean, you snap out of, I want to be a comedian. Like, what's your real motive? You want to do it because you want to be famous, or you want attention? You want the spotlight? You want to make people laugh so that they accept you? Look deeper into a question
your motives.
Because then it just goes away. And then, like example with me being a musician, I mean, I'm talking to somebody to be a singer, but there's no effort, there's no emotion, there's no feeling, there's no impatience about the music being made. And there's moments when it'll creep in, because I can be honest with like thoughts of, all right, I'm training with somebody at work right now, and they're a rapper, and they're talking about how hot Waco is getting, and like there's 2 rappers from Waco now that have blown up, that are signed with some big labels, and so people are looking at Waco, and so your thought,
didn't know that.
Yeah, your thought can get impatient and be like, oh man, or your thought can go, I wish I did that, I wish I did that, but I see that, and then it just stops, and it just falls where it's at, and it's like, nothing I do now, nothing I would have done in the past is going to be any different. I can say the what ifs, just putting myself in conflict, emotional. What is that actually doing? You don't even know where that's going to go to, but you just see it. You see how the thought goes, and how now people that don't see it would probably go home. They would start trying to make music now, or they would be real regretful, like, man, if I would have done that. And then they're always talking about that, which then makes people not like you, because you're always talking about the same crap of like, man, if I would have done this, I know I would have been that, or if I would have done, I see people repeat that stuff all the time. And it's like, all right, man, we know if you would have done stuff, you would have been a great rapper, you would have been a great actor. If you missed your opportunity, all right, we know. And then you're stuck in this shit. Yeah, should have
done this. I should have done that.
But you don't drop it. You don't look at, why am I doing that? Why do I keep saying that? Why am I stuck in the past at this moment? What is that doing in my life? Am I happy now? And so on. Or now I'm gonna go and try really hard to do it. And at that moment, everybody's gonna suffer from it, because I'm putting myself for some selfish reason of, I want money. I want something that there's not helping people and trying to be an actor or be something like that. Well, I'm gonna make movies that change people. It's like, no, you're not, because what it's already been done. There's beautiful movies out there about afterlife and about your habits, and people don't want to see that. And even if when they do see that, it doesn't change them. They have a little day or two of feeling good about themselves, and then that conditioning takes over, because they haven't learned to see the conditioning and see that they're trapped in this thing.
this thing.
You're actually trying to not be so strong, and you're trying to take things off. You're trying to have clarity, so when you look at something, there's no biasness, there's no past, there's no your experience, there's none of that blaming people. You just, now you have this clarity, you have this weight lifted off of you. You just see what actually is there, but it is all psychological, and it's not abstraction or philosophy. It's the facts of what is, and we use words like conditioning, but that just means we're looking at your body, your brain habits. We're looking at, that is conditioning, the programming, whatever word you want to use, but
Right.
you are a product of what you're exposed to. I don't need knowledge to see that.
Yeah, yeah, but a lot of people don't get to that point.
Because they're always looking for other people, and those other people are just going to tell you their thing, and they're going to say success is money. Oh, and if you ain't trying to get money, you don't care about nobody. And then you're like, oh, he's right. Now, think for yourself.
Think for yourself. Yeah, I guess that's probably the big takeaway here. Think for yourself.
Question everything.
Question everything.
Don't
just
one question, deeper layers. You got to go deep. And then again, when you get frustrated or emotional, of like, man, it can't be like that, because you don't want to let go of the past, or you don't want to let go of a belief, your tradition, or you don't want to let go of it because my grandma used to say it though, and I'm not honoring her. It's all meaningless, because it doesn't do anything. What is it? Or look at it. What is it actually doing? You holding on to all of that, and then see the fact of it, and then change, and then, or go deeper into it, and stick to that fact of what is and what it actually is doing.
Yeah.
Got too close, son.
Yeah, well,
no.
I was just saying, yeah, somebody's going to be on your podcast there. That's okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I agree that number one, we are born into conditioning, and number two, things that motivate us are pretty basic. Pleasure, connection. We really didn't explicitly talk about that one, but what other people think of us is very powerful. It means a lot. And I don't know that we can, or even if we should, try to divorce ourselves from that. I think we're all connected.
When you say that, I mean, from what, it's the when you see the conditioning, you're able to free yourself from it. So no matter what people think, I can be the best human being in the world, and someone's always gonna think differently, or think that you're trying to be better than them, or think that you're trying to take over something. And when I can see the conditioning, then I just free myself from it. And then you're imagining things, as far as thinking that no one's gonna be your friend, or so and so.
Right.
Then because I've already lived it and I'm already doing it. And so the imagination projects, and then when I see the conditioning, I can't, so to speak, you can't please everybody. But as long as you keep your opinions, you be who you are, you just talk to people, you see the conditioning, you're able to ebb and flow with people, you don't judge nobody because you're talking to them and they're on drugs or something. You don't try to minister and try to help them. You just be your example, and just let the world, let people do what they're gonna do. What are you gonna do? There's help out there already. There's already people telling them that they shouldn't be doing it, and it doesn't work. So you coming in thinking you're a superhero, look at it and just
That's an important
be a
point.
friend, or just talk to that person, and then if they come and go, let them come and go. I'm not attached to their life. It's not even my life right now, but I'm just gonna focus on my psyche, and I know who I am. I don't need nobody else to think. I'm not gonna be able to change anybody's mind, but I see the conditioning that they're in, and then I just have compassion, and I'm able to let it go. You can think what you want. You're not gonna provide nothing for me that I can't get from just my own psyche. And that's not going to isolate me. And then you start projecting things again.
I think you're right, and I think you hit on another really good important point, and that is everybody has their journey, and the only way that people are going to get motivated to change is if they find that motivation, that why within themselves. We can't change people, and if we try, that's really kind of a form of control. And I think you're right, and just the compassionate thing to do is to walk alongside somebody. And
if one person's doing meth and there's like 10 people not doing it, they're going to change. They don't need nobody to tell them to change. Then someone's constantly telling you something to do, or of course they have their friends that they go and do drugs with. But if we can just more change our psychology, and then imagine everybody in say, just an example, limited by my thought, which I know is not going to, but I hope it paints some kind of picture. Say all of America was conditioned in a way to not see selfishness, to not steal, to not want to do drugs, because I see myself as whole. And then you have one person that somehow gets a little thought and tries to do something else, but when no one else is doing it,
and they're not going to do it. So, but it's like I see people stealing. I see a bunch of looters. I'm going to go do it. There's a group there now. So when the majority of the group starts to take over, there's some kind of change there. But we've never seen it. I've never seen a group take over psychologically where people aren't trying to be something. I'm not trying to make you into something. You just see me for what I am, and then I'm living. I'm having discussions of what happy and love is. All of us, there's big peoples of groups having these conversations, and we're not trying to tell nobody what to do. We're just trying to figure out and come to agreement on certain things. And when we come to agree, no matter what our words are or how we're getting there in our beliefs, we just accept it. We don't judge it. We're not biased towards it. And then what is that going to produce? But people again are always going to
What
say
is
that's
it
not
going
the
to
way.
produce?
Yeah, we don't know.
Indeed. What is it going to produce?
But we might as well do something that's never been done before with that kind of stuff.
No, I think our motives are basic, and I think they're influenced by our conditioning. And I think that if we find out what our motives are and change them for the better and change them to be more selfless and compassionate, which is, being with people and caring for them and walking alongside them on their journeys and not trying to control them or make them do what we think we need them to do, then I think that's a pretty good outline for just making things better in general.
And just see the motive, or see whatever the habit is, and don't try to change it. Because then I see the motive or I see the habit, I'm going to try to change it into this. Just see it, and then when you see it, then you just move from there. And it's like I'm moving without trying to change it into anything. I see that my motive is selfish, and I'm not going to try to be selfless. I'm just going to see them and see the conditioning, let that move me and start to change without trying to be like, all right, now I see my motive, I'm going to make my motive this, or I see my intention, I'm going to make my intention this, or I see that I eat pizza, I'm going to make what I eat this. Because now you're getting stuck in that whole process again. Just see it. When you see it, then all I can say is move. When I say move, it's just like that. Now let something different happen psychologically. It might not be the action, but it's the psychologicalness of how you're thinking about it, how you're seeing it. And then that's going to give you this sort of anxiety is going to go away, depression is going to go away, embarrassment is going to go away. And then if it doesn't, you question again, why am I embarrassed? Well, you might be doing something that you know is going against, you're forcing something to happen in that moment. You're putting yourself in an awkward position because you're trying to impress, you're falling into this conditioning thing again.
Yeah.
Great.
Very good.
All right. Anything else? Are you good?
No,
enjoy this.
That was good.
Fish.
I love this.
Awesome.
So nice.